welcome. It's Monday, February 10th to Human Services Committee. It is in tradition, Senator Utke, what happened 5 years ago when then Senator Ayler, we had a Omar Fateh Day, and so we thought we would have that today, and I believe that's where the good, the bad, and the Utke came out, because then there was an Utke Day, I think that's coming up as well. So we do have quorum members. The pieces there are in front of you, and I believe, I thought one, Senate File 814, that's your third one on the docket. Senator Wickland, I believe you requested to have that in your committee. I mean, if that's something you still want to do. If not, if we just waive that, we'll just lay that over as well and then work on it. Not that you have a whole bunch of hearings in front of you, but if it's up to you on the end of what you're thinking. What are your thoughts?
Senator Huffman, I'll ask Anna, because she mentioned to me on my way down here that she maybe had talked to David about it, so I'll find out.
Awesome, cool. You and Anna can figure that. So, members, Senator Fateh, you got Senate File 813. Zania Harut and Josh Berger are going to join you two on this. So the floor is yours, Senator.
So we're starting with 812, Mr. Chair, or 13.
You want to start with 812? I got 813 first.
Let's do 13 first. Okay.
13? All right. You want to get Josh Berg? You want to come on down too?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Today you'll hear a series of bills brought forward by the Residential Providers Association of Minnesota, RPMN, a 501c6 nonprofit trade association that represents small residential customized living and waiver service providers in Minnesota. A vast majority of RPMN's members are BIPOC-owned, culturally specific service providers who primarily serve Minnesotans with disabilities accessing Medicaid via the CADI and BI disability waivers. First is SF 813, which addresses various issues within the Integrated Community Supports, or ICS program. The A1 amendment gets the bill into the form that I would like, and I'll touch on all the elements of the bill together in my presentation once the bill is amended. So
with that, thank you, Senator Fateh. With that, the A1 amendment is in front of everybody. Do you want Senator Fateh to go line by line on the amendment, or are we good? All those in favor say aye. Okay. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Now it's in the form you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate File 813 makes changes to the ICS program to address inefficiencies and confusion. First, it directs the Commissioner of DHS to develop language to codify the program in statute. Many of the current issues with ICS might have been avoided if the program was created in statute or the rulemaking process with meaningful public input. Instead, because the program only exists in the state waivers plans, the requirements change over time, and many small providers struggle to track the program's requirements. As amended, the bill also seeks to address some issues regarding approval timelines, setting utilization, and the costs associated with backlog service setting reviews. The bill requires quarterly reporting of setting utilization and approval review timelines. It imposes a 2-year moratorium on new applications to allow DHS to work through the current backlog, and it directs DHS to examine how to potentially issue temporary or provisional licenses before the providers have a control of a setting. Today, many providers have been waiting for approval of their settings for over a year, all while paying for these settings without being able to provide services. Today, I have Zania, President of RPMN, here to testify on the need for this bill.
Thank you, Senator Fateh. Any questions for the good senator from Minneapolis? Or if not, Ms. Harut, welcome back. Nice to see you this year.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Zania Harut, and I'm the board president of the Residential Providers Association of Minnesota, otherwise known as RPMN. We are a nonprofit trade association that represents small residential providers in Minnesota, and RPMN has roughly 200 provider members and subscribers within our network. The vast majority of us are culturally specific service providers who may not otherwise be engaged in the policy development and legislative process. I appreciate the opportunity to provide comment on Senate File 813, which seeks to address some of the ongoing issues that small providers have had with the Integrated Community Supports, or ICS program. Some of you may recall the discussion in this committee last session on the ICS program and questions as to program utilization, setting approval timelines, and other regulatory issues. This bill, as amended, seeks to start the process of addressing some of those concerns. The current wait time is, the current processing time is from October of 2023. The first thing this bill does is direct DHS to make recommendations to the legislature next session as to how to put the requirements of the program into statute. The ICS program is a creation of DHS, and as providers struggle to navigate the program requirements because there are no statutory guidelines. Codifying the program in statute will create transparency about the program's functionality and its processes. It will also allow for provider input into the program so that improvements can be made during future legislative sessions. Too often, as small providers have learned that DHS has changed the rules, whether it's a decision not to allow for settings to serve just one or two people or technical requirements as to how our leases need to be signed, it feels like the requirements are always shifting. This bill would start the process of putting the program into statute and allow for stakeholder engagement when DHS wants to make changes in the future. The author's amendment adds 3 other elements to the bill. First, it seeks to bring some transparency to the discussion of capacity and utilization that we had in committee last year by requiring DHS to publish on a quarterly basis the number of approved ICS beds, the average utilization of those beds in the past quarter, and the number of setting applications currently in the review process, as well as the average wait time for review of the prior quarter. Second, the bill would impose a temporary moratorium on new setting applications for 2 years in order to allow DHS to work through the backlog in applications. There will be exceptions to the moratorium like we have for other statutory moratoriums, but it is intended to allow the program to right size while also recognizing that DHS can't impose a moratorium like this without legislative authority. Lastly, the amendment directs DHS to prepare a proposal for legislature as to how the state might implement a temporary or provisional approval process for ICS settings so that providers can get the go-ahead before incurring lots of costs of paying for a new setting. Today, providers who are actively transitioning to providing ICS services are facing months or at this point, years of delays in licensing and approval processes, and there is no clear process or timeline for approval of ICS. They are frequently forced to pay for apartments where they cannot provide services while they wait for the settings to be approved. More importantly, the clients who are transitioning to the new settings are in limbo as they wait to move to a new setting. While there are significant details to work out on this concept, the goal today was to highlight the issue with approval and provider control as it is costing RPAMM members tens of thousands of dollars a month while they wait for approval. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Harut. I remember this conversation. We were in that. Senator Utke, were you looking, you wanted to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have questions, but we could catch Mr. Berg's testimony, and then we'll go back and kind of, they can all weigh in on it.
Awesome. I remember this conversation from last year and the letter that went out that was really confusing. So it's Mr. Berg, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Josh Berg, and I am here today in support of all 3 bills on the agenda, and in particular, Senate File 813 as amended. As a quick reminder, in 2022, ASI made the transition from customized living services in our apartment settings to ICS. I often let folks know that this model appears to be the most functional of any that we, at least at ASI, have operated under during our 44-plus years of existence. This model has great potential, and I'm hopeful that through the collaboration and partnership with DHS, we can continue to modify and improve how the services are delivered. With that said, there are specific opportunities for improvement and or further modification. This includes, and is certainly not limited to, the inclusion of nursing services in the DWRS framework for ICS, as I talked about last week in relation to Senate File 94, transportation access and reimbursement, along with the ability for multiple providers to be able to support individuals in the same location, are also topics and issues that need to be addressed. Additionally, because ICS is not codified in Minnesota statutes, providers, lead agencies, individuals accessing the services, and even DHS's own staff are left to interpret the 500-plus page waiver amendment, DHS policy and procedures and periodic memos, and the CBSM for guidance and direction of what the service can and cannot provide, as well as how DHS and lead agencies are to oversee and administer the program. The challenge with this is that DHS single-handedly has the ability to change its approach whenever it feels, with little to no transparency, collaboration, notice, and/or input from everyone involved, including you all at the legislature. This has led to significant issues with the program's rollout and perhaps most apparent with the license application process as a whole. The lack of consistent processing of applications, setting capacity reports, and site-specific reviews has been a problem from the initial rollout back in 2021. Furthermore, as many of you know, DHS is currently significantly behind in processing applications, and this includes general 245D applications as well as everything ICS. To make matters worse, in early 2024, DHS decided, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, without consultation or notice to providers, lead agencies, or individuals this would impact, to pause any and all application processing for ICS settings located in, quote, regions with high service capacity or availability, unquote. I believe this to currently mean the 5 counties identified earlier in 2024 when DHS issued a memo including Anoka, Dakota, Hennepin, Ramsey, and Washington counties. The memo that was delivered at 2:40 p.m. on January 31st, 2024 via email was made effective immediately. I won't go into details on that in particular unless you guys have questions. But there are several issues with this, and I'll just highlight a few. Per my understanding of the law, which is certainly not the same as Mr. Monahan's, all state agencies and government entities at all levels shall comply with application processing timelines listed in Minnesota law. This includes Chapter 15, where there's the 60-day rule. There's language in 245A and 245D that alludes to 90-day license application approval timelines. And what's confusing to me is that none of these seem to apply to DHS and DSD when it comes to ICS and 245D applications or license modifications, leaving those of us trying to operate without any clear guidance or understanding. It also leaves DHS with very little, if any, accountability from anyone to ensure that they are doing their job. The rationale DHS provides for the lack of processing also varies depending on who or what is asked. Sometimes it is internal DHS capacity or staffing, and other times it is related to the memo and service utilization or underutilization argument, neither of which matter if DHS is required to follow state law. But let's say DHS is exempt from the licensing statutes and the data and information related to the service utilization argument is severely lacking in order to provide clarity and consistency. I believe it is very important to obtain the following information to help guide some of these questions. How many ICS settings provide 24-hour staffing to support individuals? How many ICS settings provide nursing services and supports on site? Of those, how many provide 24/7 access to nursing services and supports? How many ICS settings are wheelchair and or ADA accessible? How many ICS settings are affordable or subsidized to support low-income individuals living in those settings? The list goes on and on. And then speaking of license capacity, let me quickly turn to that issue. As you may or may not be aware, providers of ICS settings must identify and list a capacity number, and DHS approves this number before services can be provided. This caps the number of individuals that can be served in that ICS setting. It limits the number of individuals served without any ability to adjust up or down due to whatever the reason given by the department for not processing these requests. And this impacts real individuals. I'm just going to give you 2 quick examples of what this meant in practical purposes. And I alluded to this to a question or a comment that Senator May Quaid made a couple hearings ago. In August of 2024, an individual was boarding in a hospital or TCU, finally saw their application at the top of a wait list for one of our affordable, accessible apartments in New Brighton. This person was ecstatic to have the opportunity to move out of the acute care setting and into his own apartment and have access to 24/7 staff and nursing supports needed to live as independently as possible. The one problem, as you can probably guess, was the setting was at, and still is, at its max capacity. Despite repeated efforts to work with the department to increase this setting's capacity by just 1 unit to go from 7 to 8, I offered to give back multiple units from another ICS that we weren't utilizing in the process. DHS determined it could not prioritize this request. This is even in spite of the fact that one of the criteria for prioritization listed on the DHS January 31st memo states, support people transitioning out of acute hospital settings. Needless to say, the individual was not able to move into his apartment and was forced to choose an alternative, not person-centered and non-preferred AL SNF setting. The second example directly impacts Justina Blatterman, who was supposed to be here to testify with me last week. She was able to get a ride on Metro Mobility, and they didn't cancel on her last minute. But the individual, or Justina, applied to move from one of our current ICS settings to a Roseville location. That Roseville location is at its max capacity right now. If Justina's app gets to the top of the list within the next 12 or so months and we don't have an increased capacity, she's going to have to decide whether or not she can risk 24-hour staffing, try to patch something together with PCA, home care, nursing to make it work, or turn down the accessible apartment that she's been on a wait list for 4 years already. This is, in my opinion, is a decision that shouldn't have to be made. These are just two examples of an issue related to license capacity that I hope we can work with the department on, and perhaps the codification of ICS within state statutes will help with this. In closing, I am extremely supportive of this bill and the work that Mr. Bergeron, RPMN, and Senator Fateh have been doing in this area. This is an issue that becomes even more imperative to address as we will soon hear the governor's proposal to limit and essentially end customized living services for individuals with disabilities under 55 years old without a functioning and equivalent alternative in place. I'd be happy to talk more about this at an upcoming committee hearing, answer any questions y'all might have on this and anything else I touched on today, and I'm grateful for you allowing me to speak on these issues.
Wow, Senator Fateh, thank you, testifiers, that for a couple of fixes within the system, and I remember that conversation there, Mr. Berg, about, and the question I kept thinking, well, where's the flexibility? We want the system to do this, but we're not doing that. It's like, and if this is one that's there, I do know the department is going to work with Senator Fateh on some of this stuff, and I do know that to be. We don't need to bring him up here and hash it. But Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that's one of the concerns I had was we've heard about all of what the testifiers have labeled as shortcomings from the department, and now the bill language says the commissioner shall draft this language. I'm of the opinion that with Senator Fateh and other members, the language should come from those concerned and a fellow legislator working with our council, et cetera, putting this language together, because we just heard a whole long list of shortcomings. Yep. And now we're going to say, go do it. They can weigh in on it, but I think it shouldn't just be passed on and say, hey, this one's yours. We need to stay involved. So that's one of the comments I have. And then, going through, now this is in the amendment on page 3, down on, starting on 323 and for the next 4 lines, but it addresses the licensing. And once again, why would we want to grant a provisional or transitional license? It all boils down to the long time that it's taking to get these licenses out. Let's work on the issue of getting licenses out in a timely fashion and not be putting things out that might have to be retracted. I think it's the cart in front of the horse. And then the last one, of course, is we must have some feel for how much is this going to cost. I see a lot of expense and stuff in here. I would imagine there's a fiscal note being worked on and such, but those are things that are going to have to come back and be discussed.
Senator Fateh, of those 3 points, thank you, Senator Utke, for talking about, we know this issue is out there, and I like your advocacy that it should be coming, let's get some folks in it and utilize the technical assistance. And of course, his third question was, what's it going to cost, right? Well, I would assume you put in for a fiscal note on that. And if you'd like to respond to Senator Utke or just kind of have that conversation with him, that would be wonderful. Anybody can do that. And then Senator Abler, we'll follow up with Senator Utke, and then we'll go to Abler, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the
Yeah.
fiscal note, but in terms of DHS versus legislators and shareholders, I think this is just like the starting point of the conversation. Happy to engage with Senator Utke and others on how to make the bill better. But this is just a conversation starter. Yes. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I do realize it's the beginning. I just had challenges at the same wording as basically in I think the third bill up today. And again, it says having the commissioner draft the language. I think that, again, is the same story. You need to be involved. The advocates need to be involved. We all need to be involved. And the department will weigh in on it, but we shouldn't just be writing a bill that says, Commissioner, go write the language, and then we're going to say, we don't like what's there. Well, we didn't work with them, so we all need to be involved.
This is what this committee's about, Senator Fateh.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Senator Makeweed has something.
So we're going to go Senator Abler, then Makeweed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I wonder if I can get a stick with this hearing, so I could just pass it to my friends to celebrate Senator Fateh Day at the committee. So he could get one for his family.
You started this. It was done because 5 years, what you did 5 years ago, and we joked
he has
about
everything
that.
today,
You weren't
so-
here at the beginning. I mean, if you'd have been here at the beginning, maybe you would have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was distracted. Did you realize, Mr. Chair, that the Department of Health does not have any systems in place to even talk about epilepsy? That's what I was talking about.
Seriously?
No,
Not one?
they don't, no. And so there's a proposal to add that to their list, but so I'm digressing, but do you realize it's a relatively new condition, epilepsy? It's only been around since the time of the Babylonians. So that's kind of new. So clearly they wouldn't have thought of it. So anyway, that's just meant to also relieve the pressure on DHS. Sometimes we're kind of rough on them, so we're equal opportunity. We're like, seriously? How could they have not thought of having that? Like, you're kidding. Anyway, Mr. Chair, was it 2017, Independence, we mean it? Oh, my God. Did you, I meant it, you meant it.
Yeah, I remember that because
Yeah.
I remember the day that you said that.
Yeah.
And everything you did was thematic around
Yeah. And we
this
had-
piece, which is what we're talking about, because
And
that's where everybody was driving
Mark
to.
was here, and Ms.
Yep.
Zuber,
Yep.
who's departed the scene now, but
Yep.
was here, and she was our first testifier because we meant it. And so I just, to the bill, it's like, pass the bill, whatever. But over the years, I've gotten to appreciate the quality of staff at DHS, but also the challenges of their jobs. And this goofy process where the governor has to approve things, who even the governor is, to get them going. And so they're going to give technical advice on something that they really would want to do, but they're not allowed to because it hasn't been approved by the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. Maybe it's a person. Oh, it could be someone behind a curtain. I don't even know. But so Mr. Berg and others, and Senator, and we're just chasing the same dog around a tree.
18, 19, 20. It was 7 years ago.
Yeah. So we
7 years ago.
and so
Yeah.
there's some arcane system of somebody approving something, and we wonder why it costs so much. We can't approve the stuff that we know is cheaper because there's some process that I just don't understand, and I'm frustrated by that. And I'm happy that Senator Fateh has taken the entire day to work on this topic, and I hope you're more successful than I was. But I don't think it's for lack of will here. I don't think it's a lack of will there. But there's some kind of disconnect. And, wow, you're the chair, figure it out. But I don't know. It's not for lack of will, but it's not working. And so we talked to the people who were doing the providing of services, people that represent them, more people that provide and are very innovative. And they really can't innovate. And so somebody's going to sit around for a year waiting for something that's going to cost more because they can't get the better version for their own deal. And I don't know, just it's more philosophical, but
You had the same.
but I know they care. I talked to every one of those
Yeah.
individuals, and there's not one to a person who is not interested in this. So I think we're on the right track, but Please keep bringing ideas and pushing, and like we're pushing our rope up a hill, Mr. Chair.
So I want to go to the floor with this. I'm kidding. Senator, thank you, Senator Abler. I mean, you had the same barriers in 2017 that we're doing. There's this systemic stuff, and we don't know why. Senator Aaron May Quaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm apologizing to any of my committee members or people in the audience who are like, I don't even want to hear this, but could you just explain to me how ICS was created, what it does? I mean, I think I'm reading a little bit about what it does, but maybe I'll back up and just say, I get the sense a lot of times that we create programs to fix problems, and like everybody who was in the room when we created it totally understood what it was for. And then if we didn't set up like every single procedure and like look at all of the ripple effect, then we like are back here being like, okay, we didn't set up a process for this, and we didn't set up, and so then we're always trying to fix it. And so I guess what I'm just trying to understand is, where did that happen here? And maybe I'm trying to be a little bit of a future predictor of where else this might come up, but I would love to know more.
Senator May Quaid, I was looking at past you at Senator Abler when that year in 2017 when we said independence and we mean it, right? I remember that conversation, but I think this is that's the absolute question that's on the table. So Josh Berg or Senator or Fateh or Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator May Quaid. Great question. I was hoping you were going to ask. I brought some information. So straight from the waiver plan amendments, ICS is a new service, and this was back in January 1st of 2021. ICS is a new service available to support participants and does not, here I'm going to put a caveat of it does not replace existing services on the BI or CADI waiver. It will say later on in the waiver plan amendments that it does replace and is an alternative to customized living. So there's some mix-up in some of the waiver plan amendment language, in my opinion. But participants on BI and CADI waiver can begin receiving this service on January 1st or upon federal approval. ICS provides intermittent supports and training up to 24 hours in categories of community living to adults 18 years of age or older who reside in a living unit of a multifamily housing building controlled directly or indirectly by the service provider. ICS can be delivered in the participant's living unit or community settings typically used by the general public. I'll add my commentary now. So in normal language, it's to be able to support individuals on CADI, BI, CAC, and DD waivers now, and do so in apartment-like settings. So these settings are defined as having their own living unit, which includes a sleeping area, bathroom, kitchenette, and there's one other piece to that. And really, it replaces customized living for folks on those waivers, so anybody under 55 to receive these services. The beauty of ICS is you can help with ADLs, IADLs, so the day-to-day types of cares and services, medication management, coordination of appointments, coordination and collaboration to figure out transportation. We can provide these services in their apartment, outside of their apartment, so it really combines a lot of supports and services that exist across other waiver options. So it kind of has a mix of the help with the day-to-day stuff, plus some of those IHS, the individualized housing supports, IHS services that do more of those IADL supports and things like that. So customized living, think kind of like assisted living, but for individuals with disabilities that are under 55.
Senator May Quaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to continue to build my foundational knowledge, if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, and so thank you so much for that. I'll always take any reading that you bring. And then, so you had talked about a person in August of 2024 and then couldn't get into their unit, and you had offered to release other ICS units. So am I understanding, so providers, are you owning or renting the units? And you talked about expanding from 7 to 8. Was part of the issue that in order to go from 7 to 8, it was like starting all over to get that 1 instead of being like, let's look at these 7 and then see if you can add on 8? And I think I might have just asked you 4 questions in there, but go ahead.
Senator Fateh, Josh Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator. Yes, so each ICS, and I'll speak on behalf of ASI because Zanya can probably provide a little bit different perspective from RPMM members in how they do it. But ASI, we own all of our apartments, apartment buildings. For some of those, we contract out for property management side, so they may manage some of them. With ICS, we have to pick a number. So most of our apartments are about 22 to 24 units. Of those, I don't expect to serve 100% of a building. So we pick a number that is reasonable and realistic to assume. So in our Roseville location, we picked 7 because that's how many residents we had on customized living. And actually, I think we had 6 at the time. We projected for maybe room for 1 growth opportunity. However, when we have a wait list of 4 or 5 years, we don't see a lot of attrition. And we can't give preference to people that need services because they're applying for our affordable accessible housing through HUD. So they don't get to jump to the top of the wait list. Regardless, we have 7 ICS settings across the state. Of those, they each have different setting capacity numbers, and they're specific to the address, to the ICS that we are providing those in. So where we at ASI have a little bit of a luxury of it's one building, not scattered, we're not renting from another landlord or dealing with a lot of those issues that Zanya can speak to. It still causes friction because we pick a number and, some would ask, why don't you just license them all? Well, because there's a group or there's a shared rate that then gets divided by that license capacity number. So if I put 24, that rate gets divided by 24. If I pick 7, it gets divided by 7. So I want to pick the most reasonable number from a financial business standpoint that makes sense. And so to your last question, I think, when we make those requests, it's going into the queue for processing. So when I submitted the request in June or April of 2024, to increase from 7 to 8, it goes to the same pile of new applications, existing applications, so it's still sitting there. I believe it dates back to October of 2023 that the last applications that have been processed, so anything after that is still just adding to the pile that is sitting with DHS at the moment.
Senator Mayquaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
So many more questions. Actually, would you like to talk about your experience too, since it's slightly different? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Ms. Harut, do you want to
Mayquaid.
just tell us who you are again?
Zania Harut, Residential Providers Association.
Thank you.
So I can talk a little bit about the complexity of RPMM members, which is many members don't actually own the buildings. And so working with a date of October 2023, renting units is a substantial amount of time. And so that is one of the most serious complaints that we're facing right now is that providers have actually rented apartments and they're still in limbo since 2023. And so that's really been a challenging situation for a lot of the RPMM members. And also, folks have bought buildings. There are some folks who have actually bought buildings, and they have been in limbo.
Senator Mayquaid, follow up.
Thank you. Why October 2023?
That's the priority date. That's the priority date that DHS is working off of. That's the last time that an application, I believe, has been processed for ICS in the metro area. So right now, applications are still being processed in the, outside of the metro. But right now, there's really no prioritization process. It's just as received and since October 2023.
Mr. Berg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator, just to follow up on that, yeah, and I'll send you the link right now. But in the CBSM, it lists the date that DHS has last updated. I checked this morning so that I could have my numbers right. But it dates back to October 18, 2023 for regions with high service capacity or availability. Again, can only assume that this means the 5 counties that we already talked about. And then those that are not in those 5 counties, the other 82, submitted on or before October 28, 2024 is where they're at in the queue. So still, a few months behind when it comes to the most current non-metro sites.
Senator Mayquaid, any follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, no. I think I'm just still confused. And it sounds like, Senator Fateh, you're bill is trying to put some structure around a confusing situation. And so I don't know if me asking more questions is going to help. I just want to understand the problem better, but I think you've laid out, and I appreciate both of you coming to explain it, and Senator Fateh for the bill. I'll just leave it at that.
Any further member discussion? Senator Abler.
You know, I don't know if we have time for the department to come down, if they can enlighten us, but wasn't there some concern about fraud in some of this stuff and some excess fees? And was this what the deal was as well? And was there concern about that, or am I mixing that with something else? There was no concern with the misuse of this program that somebody at the table say, no, there was not.
Mr. Berg?
I was just going to say, I don't believe so, but I could be wrong.
I think
Ms.
that's another
Harut?
program.
Yeah.
Senator Abler, I think that might be another program,
Yeah.
not ICS.
Senator Abler, any follow-up?
Well, yeah, I don't know why we make this so hard. You know, I mean, just back to my philosophy part. You live in the weeds on this and day to day, and I just try to think of the big picture of it. And so we spend way more than any other state, and it seems like we have more troubles than anybody. We have so Senator Hoffman, I was mixing this up with another program that was worried about some fraud stuff, and I just don't know why we don't do the easy stuff. When people who live in this world, you got Kathy Ware and people that are endlessly, interminably really smart. You got you all who want to do the right thing. There's ways to do things that are less expensive, and all we hit is roadblocks, and we found ourselves paying the most for mediocre, and I just don't get it. So when the dust settles, Senator Hoffman, maybe there's a way, and maybe if we can open the door on this, we won't need so much money for something else, and that will find us a way out of our budget trouble. But I don't think we're spending all this money winding up getting like amazing services. So I just think I'm missing something, and I don't know what it is, but I'll stop at that. But thank you to both chairs.
No, I think you're on it, because, and I remember the counters on this was, own home is needed, not provide. I mean, there was this conversation that was going about, is the moratorium the way to go? Some people would say, no, it's not. But you're raising this point. Either way, that there's got to be that sweet spot to figure out. There's a unique need out there for individuals, right? What's keeping us from getting own home is needed less. It's needed less than the provider-controlled settings. I remember that part of that conversation too, Senator Abel. It's just like, and this is an old debate.
It's kind of like that Mario game, like you're riding along and you fall into a hole, and it's like, it's not seamless. And so maybe we should figure out what are we missing in the seamlessness of this, where the default is they go to a less intrusive, more valuable, maybe a cheaper option that actually serves them better. But the default is you fall in the hole and you go into a place. And you go into a group home or something, or a ICF, and which nobody seems to want that. And, maybe if I was the king, Mr. Chair, I would make Mr. Monahan the commissioner and have him, with his brain, noodle through this. And he would not take the job. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
So twice, Senator Ecke, twice today in this committee, you had Fateh, Berg calls out Liam. You got Abler calling him out, Liam. Next thing you know, we're going to start having a kitchen counter discussion on that. So I'm going to go to Senator Mayquade, and then Ecke, did you want to follow up on that? You're good. Senator Mayquade. Thank you, Senator Abler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm thinking out loud and in public, so bear with me. But it seems like in Minnesota, what we're trying to do in a bipartisan way is prioritize the needs of people. And yet the way that we pay for services for people are really segmented. And that isn't totally in our control. And so as we try to cobble together a set of services and a set of needs, it's complex, and then it's hard to navigate, and then there's, backlogs, and then we're like, okay, here's a different way. And so what I feel like is that we're constantly trying to adapt to the ways in which people are saying, here's how I would like to live, here's what I need to be supported, and we're like, yes, that is good, and let's do that. And also and a lot of it's the federal government, so I think that's what we're doing, and so the intention is good, and the result is complex. and then taking it away is worse. And so we're building on, building on, building on. And so I just, I think that's where we're at.
Spot on, where 12 years ago, I believe that was a building on, building on, building on. It was like these things keep getting layered, but there's not a systemic approach to that. And so, anybody else? Senator Abler, you want final word here before we give it to Fateh? What's the disposition? Are we going to just lay this one over? And I do know that Christy Graham will be visiting you often to, talk you through this, but I appreciate you giving this up. Senator Abler?
No. That's my final word. Thanks.
Senator Fateh, we're good? Lay this one over? Unless you want to send it to the finance, since,
And roll call it.
and roll call it? All right, there you go. Let's, Senate File 813 will be laid over for possible inclusion as amended in the omnibus bill. So Senator Fateh, you want to go Senate File 812?
Yes.
Customized living rate phase-in.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, members. Senate File 812 aims to address the inequity in the rate framework for customized living. The A1 amendment gets the bill in the form that I like, and I'll touch on all the elements of the bill together in my presentation once the bill is amended.
Members, the A1 amendment is in front of you. Oh, Senator Abler got a question.
Just I do, Mr. Chair, just on line 1.6. The commission must convene a group of interested parties. Could they ever convene a group of disinterested parties? Would they even go?
All those in favor of the A1 amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Senator Fateh.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently, facilities serving older Minnesotans on the elderly waiver program get paid significantly more than those serving individuals on the Community Access for Disability Inclusion, or CADI waiver, and brain injury waivers. This is because the rate framework provided in Chapter 256S was only partially implemented. Senate File 812 expands that framework to include providers who serve CADI BI waiver recipients. With the amendment, it also includes a direction to the commissioners of MDH and DHS to consult with stakeholders to draft legislation to better align the licensing requirements and reimbursement framework so that the costs of provided license services are recognized in the reimbursement framework. And once again, I have Zania to testify.
Zania Harut, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Again, my name is Zania Harut, and I'm the board chair of the Residential Providers Association of Minnesota. As you may recall, in 2021, the Minnesota Legislature and the Department of Human Services elected to separate the reimbursement system for customized living facilities serving older Minnesotans on the elderly waiver program from customized living facilities serving individuals on the CADI and BI waivers. In 2023, the legislature increased reimbursement for all customized living providers, but while it fully implemented the rate framework provided in Chapter 256S for EW residents, EW elderly waiver residents, it did not for CADI and BI. This means that the exact same service, sometimes in the same building, is reimbursed at a much lower level for individuals with disabilities than for older Minnesotans. RPMN believes that this is highly problematic, and the bill, as introduced, would require all customized living providers to be reimbursed under the same full rate framework. Additionally, for a couple years now, RPMN has talked to this committee about the group of small providers who have found themselves providing customized living services in single-family assisted living facilities and struggling through a regulatory reimbursement system that was not intended for us. Many of the people we serve are Minnesotans who have sought out culturally specific services, and between the rate disparity between elderly waiver and CADI and BI waivers, and the proposal in the governor's budget to prohibit the placement of new residents under the age of 55 in these homes, RPMN has significant concerns about client choice and limited access. Lastly, as amended, Senate File 812 would require MDH and DHS to work with stakeholders to better align the licensing requirements included in the state's assisted living statute with the cost components recognized in the customized living framework. The need for this work has been a topic of conversation in an informal assisted living licensing work group for a number of years, and RPMN believes it is important to reconcile some of the inconsistencies in the current system as soon as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Harut. Senator Fateh, this conversation is just an extension of what we just had. What do you want to do with the disposition on this? Any other questions, members? Senator Abler.
Well, I was just trying to figure out what idiot was the chair when this got passed. It was me.
You know, Jim, they used to refer to that term was used to segregate people in state institutions. So I'll give you a better, which smart chair who said we all work together established.
Yeah, I'm sorry
this
about the term. I just
No, that's okay. You're good.
Mr. Monahan, can you explain to me what we did in 2019?
Mr. Monahan,
You want the
Senator.
statute here?
Yep. Do you want
Or
to?
do you know it? Because we did this change in 2019. You did, yeah. Yeah, I did. I'm having remorse, maybe? Was this a budget thing, or?
Senator.
Which change are you referring to, Senator?
Senator
The
Abler.
repealer. It's that we're repealing,
The phase-in language?
yeah, we're repealing the phase-in language.
I believe that was due to fiscal considerations.
So it was like that or nothing. So we tried to get this going, and we thought if we got started, it would be a good thing.
Right, and
So
then.
it was actually a really good idea then.
And then
Apologize. You did okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
in 2021, the ratio of the old rates versus the new rates were altered, resulting in increased rates. And then in 2023, they both, or you all, both modified the rate framework and fully phased in that new framework for elderly waiver and tweaked the proportion for CADI and BI, but did not fully phase in the new rates for CADI and BI. And so
That's
this,
why he should be the commissioner. He remembers all this stuff.
Doesn't that blow you away? And then he didn't even have to align the corn cans up in your kitchen. So Senator
Mr.
Abler,
Chair,
to that.
Mr. Monahan, I really actually appreciate your memory on this stuff. It's really good. I don't know how you remember it all. But so it's been a steady improvement, and now they're looking just to, when would it fully phase in if we didn't do this bill?
Senator members, it wouldn't.
Oh, it wouldn't.
No, it's frozen in place until the legislature changes it.
So the phase-in, was it frozen with the work that, when I had a gavel, and that was frozen then, and we keep buying it? Okay.
Correct.
Buying it up, and so now this is another chance to buy it up, and, all right, I think that's very helpful.
You know what's helpful about that is that there's some institutional memory in why we did what we did, right? And joking aside, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, there's purpose and reason why that, and I'm so glad that we were able to have that conversation. So Senator Abler, I mean, what
So we set a priority for the other categories, and this group just
wasn't part of that?
we had to pick one, and that's what it's, yeah, I got it, that's very helpful.
So there'll be a cost factor to this, I would assume? Senator Abler, Senator Fateh?
All the staff is nodding like vigorously.
Yes, so, not that I want to be Senator Etke here, but there'll be a cost factor to this one.
But Mr. President, the parties will be interested as they talk about this.
Thank you. Senator Fateh, on that note, we laying this one over?
Yes, but this committee, if I remember, is owed $1.825 billion, so.
Say that again?
The committee is owed $1.825 billion, if I remember correctly. Is that the right number?
Yes, Senator
So I can pull it from that.
Aaron
Mr. Chair.
McQuaid will tell you. Yeah,
Pull it from that.
$1.825 billion of underspending.
But Mr. Chair, just to point
Senator,
out,
yeah.
the people that are commenting about this money being, you bought other things with it that in my opinion were less important. So maybe we could just do are the receipts attached to any of those projects? We could just take them back like to Menards or wherever, take them back to MMB and get our money back. You know I love you, Mr. Chair.
I know, and it was like important, essential, nice, the EIN process that you put together. And, we're going to have that. Senator Fateh.
I'm only kidding, Mr. Chair. We are laid over.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Etke.
just a quick question. Did
Yeah.
we approve the A1 amendment?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yeah,
On
thank you.
this
I
one.
believe, yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah,
I missed that. So,
copy on that.
thank you.
Thank you. Watch somebody go back and, well, let's approve it now then. No, I did. I remember I called for that. You got the A1. It was right away early on, so, and I even noted it here. So with that. Senate File 812 as amended will be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill, and I would assume Christy Grom shall be visiting you on this one as well. So, right? Senator Fateh, thank you. Let's go to Senate File 814. Housing support agreements. You have no amendment to this one, correct? And Zania Harut is going to be here, and then you also have Amanda. I think Amanda, it's Vikstrom. Where'd she? There she is, from the Elder Justice Center. And you got Sean Burke sitting out there too. There's a few other people. You might as well bring Sean. You going to come up as well? All right. Where's Matt Freeman today? I don't see him sitting over where he should be sitting normally. So easy. Senator Fateh, Senate File 814. It's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finally, Senate File 814 would ensure providers can contract with counties so that residents eligible for housing support can use it toward their room and board costs. While Medicaid waiver programs fund the cost of services, these dollars cannot be used to support the cost of room and board, even when a client is receiving services in a provider-controlled setting like ICS. Many RPMN clients struggle to stay current with their housing-related expenses due to counties restricting access or limiting housing support contracts. This change will ensure the financial stability of both the residents and providers. And with that, I'll pass it over to our testifier, Zania, again.
Thank you, Zania Harut. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Again, my name is Zania Harut, and I am the board chair of Residential Providers Association of Minnesota. As many of you may know, the Housing Support Program, formerly known as Group Residential Housing, or GRH, pays for room and board for seniors and adults with disabilities who have low incomes. The program aims to reduce and prevent people from living in institutions or becoming homeless. Right now, over 20,000 Minnesotans receive housing support assistance each month to help pay for rent and food. While the program utilizes state funds, these funds are only available to settings that have a contract with their local county. That means that particularly in the metro area, access to these supports is often time restricted due to the county's inability to process applications and enter into contracts with providers seeking to support eligible residents. In the metro area, RPAMN has seen counties impose private moratoriums on new contracts or prohibit contracts to certain kinds of providers or those serving individuals in certain settings. Most notably, multiple metro counties won't issue new contracts to providers utilizing single-family homes. While Medicaid waiver programs fund the cost of services, these dollars cannot be used to support the cost of room and board, even when a client is receiving services in a provider-controlled setting like ICS. Many RPMN members' clients struggle to stay current with their housing-related expenses, and RPMN seeks a legislative change that would ensure providers can contract with counties so that residents eligible for housing support can use it towards their room and board costs. This will ensure the financial stability of both the residents and providers. I want to also point out that the governor's budget proposal seeks to address this issue as it relates to recovery residences in sober homes by allowing providers who meet certain certification standards to enroll directly with DHS and to not need to go directly through the county. RPAMN would like to see this to cover all provider-controlled residential settings licensed by either MDH or DHS. By improving access to these funds, we will bring greater housing stability to individuals with disabilities, particularly in the BIPOC community that we seek to serve, and address lingering issues as to the financial viability of the provider community. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Harut, thank you very much. Questions for Ms. Harut? Anyone? Senator Abler.
Just trying to figure out this. So this is housing supports, and what kind of, so why would somebody, so this is probably, this is forecasted, right?
Yep.
It's a forecasted program, and people qualify, but they're not allowed to get housing in a single-family home, but they would get housing in an apartment. Is that right?
Ms. Harut?
Senator Abler, it depends on if that county chooses to contract with that provider. There's not a specific process for each county. Each county does it differently.
Okay.
Senator Abler.
I'm just trying to figure out why a county wouldn't want to contract with a provider that had a bunch of single-family homes. Did you cover that? I was just spacing it out, and so it just doesn't, I just don't understand why why they wouldn't do that. So maybe somebody can, I wasn't paying attention.
No, you were,
I was
no.
trying to read this and sort it out.
Well, this is where this is where why is that housing, it should be under D, I mean, there's there's deeper questions than that,
If
Senator.
somebody could tell me
Yeah.
that, that's it.
Ms. Harut or Senator?
Senator Abler, currently, I think the notion of not accepting housing support contracts in single-family homes was because I think DHS did not want to further customized living. They did not want to encourage providers to be customized living providers or to have those settings. That's what I've heard from counties. The other thing is it's not just in the single-family homes. Currently, in the counties, you can't even get a contract even for apartments or community-based settings either. They just won't contract, and they are saying, budget concerns for that, or they'll just have, we're just not going to do it, no reason for it.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
And I'm very happy to admit my ignorance on some of this. So much goes in, it's all just jammed in there, and I can't get it back out sometimes. But was this back to, there was some fraud issues with some of this. This isn't, there's no fraud tied to this either. And so there weren't some providers who were doing inappropriate billing and all that they're trying to.
What year was that? Do you remember, Jim?
No.
No.
But there's just been some things we've tried to tamp down on, and so the more scrutiny. But so I'm just trying to figure out why we wouldn't provide housing to somebody. Is this violate the moratorium somehow, or it sounds like it's independent living that we might like. And so if this person doesn't get their home approved, where do they wind up?
Ms. Harut, do you know?
Senator Abler, I am not aware of any conversations in regards to fraud with housing support, GRH specifically.
Right.
What I do know is that the concern that we have heard is it's a county budget concern, or it's just not one. So I'll give an example. In Hennepin County, they have more than 5 or 6 different ways to utilize housing support. You can utilize it in a single-family home. If you have a contract, you can utilize it in apartment settings, in community-based settings, in assisted living facilities, in CRS homes. But if you go to another county, let's say Ramsey County, they'll say, oh, we're only doing it for this. And you go to Washington County and they say, well, we're only doing it for homeless shelters. Yeah. So it just really depends on that county and where they want to use it. And there's not really a clear specified way on, and there's really no pathway to get a contract for new providers. So that's really the issue.
Wow. So, Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler, yeah.
I know there's a small army of DHS people there. Is one of them back there, the housing people, that they could just enlighten us? It seems like, the budget's in trouble, but we've already forecasted for people we think are going to need it. And this may be the thing that the budget's lower because we know that some counties not going to give it out when they probably should. So if we're trying to get people independent, and we agree that this person should get the housing supports that we've passed laws about.
No, yeah.
I just don't understand the policy thing, especially if it's forecasted. So if it comes out of a county budget, I get that because they only have so much money, but if it's forecasted.
It's already.
Do the counties want to comment about this, Mr. Chair?
I don't know. I see Matt Freeman walking around.
He just wandered in, so he gets paid more if he comes up.
He does. Christy, is there something you want to add? Are we missing something here, Christy and Matt, is this, no? Amanda,
Chair,
do
yeah,
you
Chair.
want to, yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I can
This is-
offer
I don't know if you
testimony
ever been
and-
to my committee or our
have.
committee. This
I
is
have.
what happens. It's
I
like,
have, but I don't want to.
no, you're good. Jump in.
And I can offer my
Senator
testimony
Abler-
as well in a minute. I'm Amanda Vikstrom. I'm the Executive Director at the Minnesota Elder Justice Center, and I am here on behalf of a coalition of advocates in support of this bill. And Senator Abler, yes, we are not sure why certain counties are choosing to disincentivize certain types of providers with these housing supports. So that is what we are seeing, and it is our understanding that DHS has said we cannot tell them that, we don't have the authority to tell them not to be gatekeepers, and certain counties are choosing to be gatekeepers for different types of facilities. So we're looking for clarification on really having the counties have to explain for a limited set of reasons before they're denying these housing supports, really pointing to why, rather than we would like to disincentivize four-person assisted living homes, so we are never going to approve housing supports in that setting.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
So when I first read this, now I'm on the Housing Committee, so I have a lot to learn there. And so sometimes there's individuals who don't want to take Section 8 to their home. This is not that. These are people that have homes. They want to have these individuals come.
So they're in, say.
Ms.
Sorry,
Fickstrom,
yes.
wait for me to acknowledge you,
Sorry.
please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Senator Abler, do you want to finish?
So these are very willing providers, and they could they put a number of people into one of these homes? Like you had two friends who were, like two unrelated people, could they go into one of these homes if they wanted to? And so.
Ms. Fickstrom.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, it just
Yeah.
helps people, because when we get to the point, it's, otherwise we end up
Absolutely.
talking over one another. So,
Absolutely.
Ms. Fickstrom.
No, yes. It's the provider qualifies for the housing supports, the individual qualifies for the housing supports. When it's submitted to the county can choose whether or not to approve it. And then the provider, say it's what we are seeing is this, recently a small four-person assisted living facility then didn't have room and board to pay for this person who was living in their assisted living facility. And so either the provider has to come up with those dollars, or the person is evicted for non-payment of funds because the county has chosen not to. And it's not, the counties are playing gatekeeper, essentially. So it's not a unilaterally refusing in this case or in this county. It's counties are playing gatekeeper with the funds that are there and available.
Jeez. Sounds like you remember Senator Abler, you remember the waivered services in 2014 or 15? When there was 97% of it had to go toward that
Yeah.
forecasted money. It's almost, I'm having memories here. Senator Abel.
Well, somebody said that they can't make the counties do this. Mr. Freeman, we can make you do almost anything we can, anyway, cook up. I mean, the counties, we're a state-directed, county-implemented system here. And so if we establish a policy that we want everybody who qualifies, not people who are not good quality providers who are agreeing by whatever set of standards we have and all that.
Does this
So
get
this
to
is,
that point,
I think
Jim?
there'll be some meeting in some rooms about this, so anyway.
Does that attempt to get us to that point in what you're raising? Do you think this is?
Well, this
a
is they
good-
have to do it.
Yeah.
This would say that, and so, I don't know if the counties are prepared to comment about this, but I'm just puzzled why they want.
Well, we're gonna.
And so the other programs where we've been worried about excess services being provided by people in a wrongful way, there's apparently none of this on this part, so I don't know why and it's somebody else's money, so,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think you're right.
Thank you, I'm done, so thanks.
So, Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the interesting thing, I just got a request from my district by a person who owns 2 hotels that would like to participate in this program to provide housing for, supports. And so I don't know where my LA sent the email, but we should be hearing back. But what I'm drawn to is that, and it does involve the area of fraud, in the Star Tribune on February 22nd, 2025, they allege that the program is ripe for fraud. And they said here was the gist of the article. Predatory enrollers are approaching vulnerable people around emergency shelters and promising housing. Enrollers have been wearing name tags to impersonate staff from a trusted organization. Currently, more than 14,100 people are enrolled.
Glenn?
Yep.
Glenn, that's housing stabilization services. This is a whole different animal we're talking about right here.
Oh, well, I got,
That's okay. It's fine. You know what? We'll, it's like Senator Abler. It was, remember, we were just having the conversation about, well, did we do this at one time? Do we do this?
Yeah.
That one I think you're referring to is housing stabilization services, and this is not what we're talking about within the structure of this to that point. So
well,
you're
these
fine.
comments are under my summary of 814, so I don't know.
No, it's fine. So Senate File 814 is really that housing supports agreements. That's a little different conversation than the, which is fine. Well, that's another issue that we'll probably bring up, but in this case,
Well,
Senator
anyway.
Fateh, right? Is that?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, correct. So Senator Gruenhagen, to that point.
Let me just summarize my point. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we've seen a lot of fraud lately, okay? Even the federal government said Minnesota has a problem with fraud. And I do think the county should have some discretion in deciding who and if gets these benefits, because they're closer to the actual situation. And the further away you get, I think the more opportunity there is for fraud, okay?
Thank you.
And so I guess that would be my position, and that, on the other hand, I do have that one person who's interested in it, so we'll go from there.
And it'd be interesting if it was a little different, but it would be good to follow up on that. You got two hotels in the Silver Lake, Glencoe area there, farther, Hutch? I like that, so thank you for that. And
They want to participate in the program.
you're a county guy, I like this, so Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question for nonpartisan staff. Does this bill and the fiscal implications of it, does this count against the Human Services Committee or the Health and Human Services Committee?
It's gonna, they're dialoguing down there. Who wants to answer that one? I think I heard, go ahead, Senator, or go ahead, Liam. Mr. Monahan.
Mr. Chair, members, it's true that the Housing Supports Program is under the jurisdiction of Senator Wickland's committee. When you think about the program in total, this committee has carried incremental changes to the program that were targeted at specific facilities to provide services to people with chemical use disorder. So that's really where the jurisdiction of this committee has been with respect to the housing support. But this change is a general change to the administration of the program, so it would fall under HHS.
That was good. Senator Abler? I think we're going to send it over there, right? I mean, this is, the good, the bad, and the Utke. This is awesome. Not bad for the, which one were you? The good, the bad, or, we know the Utke one, but I remember when you did that. It was you and Abler and Utke.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
So as it goes there, and, a bunch of us are on that committee as well.
Yeah.
I think that someone should tell us why they're not doing it. And there may be a very good reason, but I haven't had an inkling of what that is yet. And so, like I said, I think there'll be some meetings in the rooms, Senator Wickland, Senator Fateh, and other interested parties as this moves forward.
Sure.
Maybe I can just ask a question of staff.
Yeah.
If this goes forward because it's been underutilized, are we going to get charged for the more full utilization of the program in a fiscal note? Kyle or somebody.
What do you think?
Mr. Chair, Senator Abler, so I would have to request a fiscal note and see what the department would come back in terms of the fiscal note for that.
So Senator Abler, Senator Fateh, did you request that already? Is that something that you guys have done, Senator Abler?
Well, I think he should on the way, but it would be ironic. So we've had fiscal notes charged us for underutilized programs for all kinds of reasons.
Yep.
But we've never had one, if the county decided to say, yes, they will do it,
Yep.
it's free. But if we say you have to do it, and
It's
the same number of beds get used, we have to pay for it.
Say that again, just so, let me hear the essence of what
so
you
today-
just said, because I want to
so
hear that
today,
over again.
Hennepin County or whatever one's, not to impugn them, I don't know what Totonoka does, but anyway, so the county, any county could do this today, and it would not require us, it would require it comes out of the forecast, magically. And so, but if we make them do it, and if all the counties hear this, say, oh my, we should just do this, it's not going to cost your budget at all. It will cost the forecast and the deficit sometime, but not us in this committee. But if we make them do it, and they do it because we made them do it, we have to pay for it in our budget. That's be Senator Wickland's budget. So there you go. That's even better. But anyway, so another budget has to pay for it. But anyway, that's the irony of this place. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's the conundrum of Health and Human Services. What you just said, Senator Abler. It was kind of like the time when Ms. Bailey was in front of us, and there was 3 times, and we asked the question, you got to pay for it. Do I got to pay for it? And then she said, yeah, you got to pay for it the 3rd time. Do you remember that? It was like, it's like, help me understand that. So, Senator Fateh, Senate File 814 be recommended to pass and referred to Health and Human Services Committee. Oh, sorry, Senator Utke, before I finish my sentence, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in here last, and I missed a couple things, so hopefully this isn't repeating, but, and this may be something we cover when it comes to HHS, but on the second page, starting on line 211, and it's, which is the D, and then it refers to 214 and 216. But when it says you can't refuse to enter into a housing support agreement, it goes through this, and then you go down to line 216, it includes zoning classification. Can you explain how you can put that type of language in there and bypass city zoning or county zoning?
Matt Bergeron, come on down. Before you sit down, you got to tell us who you are. No, I'm kidding. Senator Matt Bergeron, will you please, for the record, state your name and help us understand this historical perspective?
Of course, Mr. Senator, members, my name is Matthew Bergeron with the law firm of Clark & Hoffman, and I provide legislative counsel to the Residential Providers Association of Minnesota. So the language in the bill, Senator, wouldn't trump zoning, but it wouldn't allow for the county to say, we don't issue for single-family homes. So if you're operating in a single-family home in a R1 residential zone, that would still have to be a permitted use. And frankly, residential facilities of 6 or fewer are by state law a permitted use in the R1 zone statewide. So this wouldn't have any impact on the zoning question at all, or the permitted use or the allowable uses under a city's zoning code. But what it would say is that a county couldn't use the fact that you were in a R1 zone as a reason not to issue a housing support contract when they might issue it in an R2 or an R3 multifamily.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as I read this, when it just says a zoning classification, and I'm thinking in our cities, they're pretty particular about their zoning, and I'm thinking, where I come from, I'm not familiar with how their zoning reads here, but they're pretty protective of those classifications and would need, they can always, you can always go to a meeting and get it adjusted, but I take it as we're just saying it can override that, and that's what I'm kind of making sure of, because it's, it's a little concerning.
Senator Utke to Matt Bergeron. Matt Bergeron.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Senator, There's nothing in this that has any impact on a municipality's ability to set its zoning code to regulate permitted uses. Because the contract for a housing support isn't coming from the city. What the language is intended to say, and we're more than happy to meet offline and look at clarifying language, is that the county couldn't use how the site is zoned as the reason to not give it a housing support contract. So the provider would still have to be allowed to operate in that zone. They would still have to go through any local approval processes that were appropriate, still meet all zoning code requirements as to how the property is used, how it's set up, all of those things. None of this touches anything in 462 or any of the zoning laws. What it would say is that the county, when deciding whether or not to issue a housing support contract, couldn't say, well, we're not going to give it to anybody that's in an R1 zone, because we don't want to give it to single-family homes. So if that hopefully adds a little bit of clarity.
Senator Ecke, the clarity, if Senator Abler wants to add into that, so
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and
Yep.
thank you. And let's do follow up with this some offline, because if it really doesn't mean a lot, then why is it in there? It's kind of where I'm coming from. And I just want to, I want to clarify that so that, and, you know, and I think you've referred a lot to counties. I'm thinking more of the cities. I think you're probably using one term as kind of covering both. But yeah, let's catch each other and see if, so that we kind of understand the full thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ecke. Senator Abler?
Once to whoever's still interested, maybe we need to be more careful saying what is it we mean about this. I was just reading, if you look at the statute, there's a 2A section it references, and it talks about these sites are licensed by DHS or the Department of Health, or the license under 144G. So it's not just a bunch of random places, and they're already known to be, so I think that maybe it could be tightened up. But Mr. Bergeron, do you have any idea why some counties would just not be interested in using single-family homes? Do you know that answer?
Mr. Bergeron.
Mr. Chair and Senator, my guess and my experience reaching out on behalf of individual providers, it's generally one of county staff bandwidth. Single-family homes are scattered site. There's a larger number of them, particularly in the 7-county metro area. And my understanding is it's just a lot to get out, and it's a lot of contract management. And so my understanding has historically been one of administrative resources in this space, without speaking for the counties. And frankly, that's why I think, as Ms. Harut noted, this bill was brought forward as a way to talk about this issue, noting, frankly, that the governor's budget has some direct enroll with DHS options in other contexts for housing supports that might be more efficient from an administrative perspective for these settings as well, and something that, as the session progresses, I know we'd all like the opportunity to look at that as well.
Wow. Jim.
So there's a chance that something in the governor's budget could actually simplify and improve. I'm interested to hear that part, not to be cynical, but that would be interesting. But it's, we just talked to my seatmates here, housing for some of these individuals is hard to find.
Yeah.
And so, Mr. Chair, maybe we're just too developed of a state, and we have too many rules that just don't make any sense, that are impossible to administer. And maybe in a time of crisis, we can actually find a way to relieve the burden of oversight that doesn't actually accomplish anything. So maybe those interested persons, when they're talking about the other things, could find things we can just stop doing or make the county stop doing, so they can do what we really want them to do. Just a thought. So thank you.
It's a great thought, and I would assume, Senator Fateh, that this whole, there's a bunch of these conversations out there, how we do what we can do better, and I'm grateful that you stuck with this. It was a learning day for all of us here, right? And so I appreciate that. I don't know anybody else. Senator, you're going to do follow-up. Senator Jordan. Senate File 814 be recommended to pass and be referred to Health and Human Services Committee. Senator Fateh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make one second clarification again from the earlier comments, that housing support is separate from housing stabilization services.
Yep.
They're not the same thing at all.
We got that,
This is not
and we'll do
HSS.
some educating on that, right?
Yes.
So thank you for that. That's called a segue into the thing. So my motion is still there. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Senator, thank you. Thank you for these conversations. So members, upcoming hearings, when is a day? Wednesday. Assistant Commissioner Merce will be here, senators. PCA to CFSS transition update. Do you remember that was part of our discussion and work group here? So we're going to happy transition, Jim. PCA to CFSS, that'll be actually a pretty good conversation, so get your homework out. Then we got Senate File 1175, presumptive disability determination process. Senator May Quaid, your disability inclusion pilot project and whatever else you have on your plate. And then next Monday, Senator Rasmussen, thank you for reminding us that we should, regardless of the language or not, we should still get that conversation, and we're going to do that. So next Monday, David has in here, we're going to do a governor's budget overview with MMB and the Department of Human Services. I'm looking at these notes now. And then on next Wednesday, members, we will have providers, advocates, and other folks that want to come in and talk about. So please get a hold of David on that. And if we have to extend that out, we really want to have, kind of like what Senator Abler, you said years ago, independence, and I mean it, right? And this is kind of the same thing here. Lengthy discussions in front of us. And so, anything else members want to bring up?
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't know if any of those people are listening, but if there's some things that we do that just don't make any sense, they could point that out, because this is on the verge of a crisis. If we did that budget, which I'll give the governor credit as his best effort. Yeah. Not that I like his effort, but that's his proposal. Yeah. If we did that, something will not be as good as might be. So there's ways around that by improving our process, and I think there's room for that. So thank you.
And each time you were involved, I think back, as long as I've known you, right, each time that there was this bump in the road when it comes to that same question has popped up, and maybe we just dig a little deeper. I mean, what Senator Fateh's bringing up, what are the other efficiencies? I know we got people working on stuff, but I appreciate that. So anybody else, members, we're all good? We are adjourned.